Hi Chewies, here's Alexandra with part 2 of the airbrush manual. What you can see here is my compressor. So I was asked what kind of compressor I use and what is the main focus on a compressor if I want to buy one. The main parts of the compressor are the compressor itself, and very important parts are the pressure tank and the water diluter. And I will show you for what purpose. You can see in there, I've used it a few minutes ago, so here is water in there. This here separates the water from the air inside the airbrush, so there's no water in this here, and the airbrush isn't to spit out water during the airbrushing process. That's very important. And also the pressure tank is very important, because if you don't have one, then the air comes out pulsing and not in a straight way. So your colors will, your airbrush will constantly spit the color instead of one solid spray. So if you want to buy a compressor, then take that kind of compressor. So several people ask me for what purpose are the pressure cans. Well, the pressure cans are just like a spray can, and they hold pressure air. But really, I don't think that's worth your money, because the only thing you can need this is for an outside mixing airbrush, like this type I've shown you, because you need air pressure to clean your airbrush every time. Every time you spray it, color will stick here inside the airbrush and it must be sprayed out. So if you spray, for example, this tank, you will need one pressure can to spray the whole tank, and then you need a whole pressure can to clean up the airbrush. That's not worth it. So if you try to really paint with an airbrush, buy a compressor. So, but don't run and buy everything now, the best airbrush and the best compressor, and then you're stuck, because you don't know how to use it, and you're getting frustrated, and then you're throwing the airbrush in the corner. And this brings us to the pros and cons of an airbrush. What can an airbrush do and what can it not do? And this will be covered in the next video. See you, your Alexandra. Alexandra with part 3 of the manual how to use an airbrush. Well, what can an airbrush do and what can it not do? First of all, the airbrush is no wonder tool. It is no other thing than this one here, or even a pencil or a screwdriver. It is a tool, and it can perform several things, and it can perform several things not. The things you can do with an airbrush are make a really nice even coat of color, make color blendings very smooth and soft, and you can, with a right airbrush, very fine spray art, very fine lines you can spray. With this airbrush, no. This is a medium-sized airbrush with a 0.7 nozzle, and for really fine airbrushes there are the 0.3 airbrushes. There you can very fine details spray with, very fine amounts of spray. And the finest airbrush is the Airbrushes Turbo. It is a very old airbrush, and it works that way. Here, normally, like it said, the air comes here through the airbrush, soaks the color, and it is vaporized. Well, and the size of the spray is reduced by the size of the nozzle. So the Airbrushes Turbo uses a different technique. There you have the needle, also, but it is, let's say this is a needle for the Pashi Turbo, but normally here's the nozzle and the needle blocks the nozzle. In this case, you have the color bottle around the needle, and the air pressure comes from here, and the air pressure is separated in two ways. So it goes here, and this moves the needle up and down. So it goes up, takes color, goes down, then you have a very tiny little amount of color on the needle, and the air puts up this tiny little spot and pulls it out. And the needle goes out up and down, up and down, and up and down. And this is the absolutely finest airbrush you can use, the Pashi Turbo. It can make airbrush lines with yeah, the size of a needle of a brush. So, well, what can an airbrush not do? An airbrush can't, you can't really paint details with this. For example, if you want to paint, let's say, this Commander Dante here, you can't perform it with an airbrush completely. Well, you can try it, but it will be a very, very high effort to do this. So, don't try it. You can blend the colors on the surface, yeah, that you can do, but there is no exchange for the brush. So the mistakes you can make with an airbrush are you go too close to the underground and spray too much, then the color will flee from you because the pressure of the airbrush itself will spit out the color. Second thing, you have to clean your airbrush. If you don't clean your airbrush, it blocks, and then it is a very hard process to get it unblocked. Other things, if you don't have a water diluter at your compressor, then water spills will go up here, go into the air, and your airbrush with a nice color transition immediately will spit out water blobs on your paint. And this is very ugly. Things that are very, very hard at using an airbrush. For example, if you paint something like a tank and you paint over some part you have airbrushed, then oh my god, this is a terrible mistake, because with a brush you can't fix this anymore, and it's very hard to correct this then with an airbrush, because you're going to ruin the piece you painted. So don't think the airbrush is an absolutely wonder tool. No, it's not. It's just a tool to perform certain things. If you want to know more how to use an airbrush, I can recommend very many airbrush users here on YouTube. I will put some links down below here. They can find the channels from them. Until then, I hope this helps a little bit. See you. You're Alexandra.